Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CSIAC Podcast. This is a digest roundtable episode where we take the top articles that we thought were most important from the latest cybersecurity digest issued by CSIAC, and we discuss their importance in the world of technology and the world today. If you would like to subscribe to the CSIAC Podcast, visit www.csiac.org/CS Digest. There you can subscribe to our mailing list and get a curated list of the top cybersecurity articles from the last 2 weeks delivered directly to your mailbox. My name is Sean Bird. I am a CSIAC analyst here. With me is...
My name is Michael Van Steenberg, and I'm a junior cybersecurity analyst here at CSIAC.
And James Rice, also a cybersecurity analyst here at CSIAC.
So let's just jump right into it. So the first article that we wanted to talk about today was GitHub survived the biggest DDoS attack ever recorded. One of the largest DDoS attacks in history, reaching up to 1.2 terabytes per second. Hackers used a DDoS technique to attack the GitHub main servers. The entirety of the attack lasted only around 20 minutes, and the attackers used a new method that deviates from traditional DDoS attacks by utilizing memcache servers as a source of the data that was being distributed to the servers. Now, just so people don't know just as a brief description of what memcache servers are servers that are distributed and used by services so that they don't have to constantly be querying databases on their back end.
Right, it'll speed up your queries.
Yeah, so every time if users are constantly searching for a specific page within a website, it'll cache that in RAM and deliver that quickly so that servers aren't constantly querying their own databases. And I didn't know that something like in the article it explains Akamai has a service that you can route to. If you're experiencing a DDoS attack, you can route all your traffic through that will scrub IPs and DDoS traffic before it's delivered to your website. And this is exactly what GitHub did when they figured out that they were experiencing a DDoS attack. I didn't know something like that existed. I thought that was kind of cool that you can reroute all your traffic and it'll be scrubbed. I'm assuming that they're doing just IP recognition, or I don't know how they would be scrubbing that traffic.
They'd be able to look at the pattern recognition as well to see what types of traffic is coming in, and then be able to identify, okay, which of this is likely legitimate traffic and which of this is likely not.
Yeah,
like in this case, they were throwing all UDP traffic at people, so you might be, depending on the web service, that might be relevant.
Anything from one of the known memcache servers.
Exactly.
And a lot of these memcache servers, I guess, are just out in the open and out in the wild and unprotected. I don't know why they would keep these memcache servers just out there unprotected like that. I mean, I get that it's a kind of a service that people use kind of willy-nilly, but why they would not protect them behind a firewall and a DMZ, I don't know.
I think a lot of this too is organizations that have set up a service and didn't think that configuring it in a particular way was important. They did not see how their service could somehow be part of a bigger attack. And we've traditionally seen these with any of the previous largest denial of service attack at the time is usually abusing some type of publicly available service for the amplification. That's the really interesting part about this, is how an attacker was able to amplify the amount of traffic that they were able to generate. Because for the most part, no attacker could generate by themselves that much traffic. Yeah. Every single one is, I'm abusing some other legitimate service, maybe misconfigured. Or
using a traditional botnet where you're controlling thousands upon thousands of machines to all generate traffic at once. This was using the reason why they call it an amplification attack was because the memcache servers send back a lot more than what you're sending to it. So if you're sending a few requests, you're going to get terabytes of data back.
Right.
So I wonder how big of an impact this had on GitHub servers. They caught it very quickly. They said the whole thing lasted only 20 minutes, so I was quite impressed by that. And they said they built their service to handle 5 times the amount of traffic from the largest known attack that they've ever seen, which was around 1 terabyte a second of data. But they said they've never actually tested that much data at once. I don't know how a service would test that much data at once. That's a lot to kind of handle.
And realistically, at that point, when you're looking at numbers like that, you're really no longer attacking one website. You're attacking their provider. And as soon as you make it someone upstream's problem, that's really what you need to be able to survive. So,
I think most attacks were most DDoS attacks they said are around 50 gigabytes a second. So this is obviously a way bigger order of magnitude size of attack than what we normally see.
Yeah, and to protect those servers, you could just bind it to the local interface, or like you said, restrict IPs.
Restrict IPs,
Yep.
local, or restrict IP access to the memcache servers.
Only allow who you want in. Yep.
Yeah.
That would be huge. Yeah.
So next is the major data breach at Marine Forces Reserve impacts thousands. The confidential information of over 20,000 people were sent via email to the usmc.mil email domain, including government and non-government personnel. The information was from the defense travel system used by the DoD for travel bookings and recordings. As far as I can tell, there's no real way to know that only the Marines were affected by this breach. So the way that this data was revealed was all this roster from the defense travel system was distributed to a email list that was the usmc.mil domain. So I don't think that means it was restricted to only United States Marine Corps data of personnel, but it was just whatever personnel was in that list was distributed to the Marine domain.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that I think was a little bit misleading. They were kind of acting like it was only Marine Corps data that was breached, but I don't think that was necessarily the case.
I think that's partially consistent with any time you have someone releasing there was a breach to say, well, this is what we think we know has been released, but what actually has been, we're not necessarily sure. And so we can't necessarily specify either.
And like we're
So-
seeing
Usually
with
that
the
takes time.
Yeah.
like we're seeing with the Equifax breach, they're still coming out with, oh hey, another few thousand people were affected and their data was released online, but we didn't know about that at the time. But they still have to obviously tell those people and offer protection for those people.
And I think that a lot of that too is consistent with the largest, of course, government breach with the OPM, where we saw over the course of months to years different numbers coming out for how many people and which systems actually were breached. So it's a consistent pattern that we've seen, and something to definitely follow the topic over the next couple weeks, because it likely is more than what has been identified so far.
And I think obviously practicing safe email practices is a big thing, having an email policy where I think that you shouldn't be able to just willy-nilly send a bunch of email or to that widespread usmc.mil domain. People shouldn't just be able to send one email to everyone like that. There should be policies in place to where that doesn't happen. And they said they were able to roll back some of them so people didn't see them. I'm assuming only on the .mil domain. Some of the contractors that receive those outside of the .mil domain,
As soon as it goes to a server they can't control,
yeah, it's
there's
gone.
there's no, you
It's
don't
gone
have to
forever, and
guarantee.
then they don't know where it went after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if there's a data loss prevention solution in place to protect those emails. And
Yeah.
usually you think that the attachment would be scrubbed and then it would be picked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, this attachment I would assume would just be probably like an Excel sheet.
Right.
So that wouldn't normally be scrubbed. It's not like a executable or like a database file. So I don't think most like Outlook servers or anything like that would scrub those off of there. Although you would hope something that large would be scrubbed. Something to keep up on. The defense travel system is a system that a lot of contractors, including ourselves, have used as a company. So really important. The next article is I don't like the way that the title of this article, but the feds can now probably unlock every iPhone model in existence. In an update to the ongoing struggle that law enforcement has to obtain information from personal handheld devices, it seems that a company named Celebrate has developed ways to gain access to any current iPhone on the market. This is an iOS hack, and the Israel-based company charges $1,500 per device that must be sent to them physically to unlock. Now, this is kind of like ever since the San Bernardino shooting, and the terrorists there or the attackers there had their personal devices that the federal government wanted Apple to unlock. This has been an ongoing thing that law enforcement is kind of struggling with. I was curious, because this company, Celebrate, is an Israeli-based company. I wonder if that's the loophole in order to get these devices unlocked, is I wonder if a company in the U.S. could do this sort of thing without facing litigation from private companies for unlocking these phones because they're foreign entities and in foreign companies. I wonder if they kind of get around that.
Mm-hmm. I agree that when you look at a case like this, the legal details matter a lot as to what's actually possible. As you said, during the San Bernardino case, the Apple versus FBI, a lot was explored to see legally on both sides what can we do, what can we get away with, what can we not do. And I think that was a big case for this. It really opened a market to say, if you as a private organization have a way to access an iPhone, there's a demand for that. And that was, to some extent, I saw this, all the news and all the press that this Apple versus FBI case got. It was like, this is nice marketing for, can someone please go develop a solution for this and market it to us? And that fits the legal framework. It wasn't so much a technical capability as it was we needed to also fit the legal framework that we have to work within in this country. So
it's odd to me that behavior that we would normally classify as black hat behavior or malicious behavior, like hacking iOS and getting around that, like jailbreaking your iPhone, is now considered white hat or I guess gray hat in order to make a business out of it and
purchasing
turn a profit.
exploits. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this company is Israeli based and but owned by a Japanese company. So these foreign companies are hacking these phones and creating developing these techniques, and they're just turning profit. I also wonder about, we were talking about the legal ramifications of this. So what's to say that a company that is unlocking these phones couldn't put evidence or plant evidence inside of these devices before handing it back? Because the government has to send $1,500 and the device to the company before they unlock it.
Or what are they doing once the phone's unlocked? Are they copying
they
the
could
data?
do anything, and it's a foreign entity. So what's the trust there? So do we trust this company that's unlocking these phones, and then you're going to use those unlocked phones as legal evidence to make an arrest and a court case? That seems a little bit unexplored. That we really need to nail down the process for that.
And I think a lot of this is going to expand bigger to the topics that we're talking about, to say this is one company that's openly advertising that they have the capability. I would tend to believe that if one company can do it, they're probably not the only one. Others just might not be as overt about it. And so that kind of gets back to the bigger point of, if we have devices, in other words, put yourself in the place of Apple, to say, how am I going to sell security to my customers going forward when I know there are other organizations that are claiming we can bypass all the security measures. So you end up having this bigger discussion about how does Apple respond kind of going forward. I think another relevant point was actually made a couple years ago by Bruce Schneier, saying there's no longer the separation between the stuff the bad guys use and the stuff the good guys use. It's the stuff we all use. And so when you want to look at what are the things that we can bypass, it's going to affect both sides of the story. It's not our stuff and their stuff. It's everyone's stuff. The thing that I have in my pocket versus the thing that the bad guy has in their pocket, many times it's going to be the same technology. So there's a much bigger discussion that this is going to continue to lead to. So,
and I think it's worth noting that Apple, within the United States anyway, Apple has around 35% of the market share, where Samsung has, I think, the other 35%, and then the others being distributed across multiple manufacturers. And worldwide, Apple has even smaller part of the share. It's just, being a U.S.-based company, Apple having more share in the U.S. becomes a more popular thing for companies to try to hack.
Right.
So I think it's worth noting for sure. The next article, the final article we're going to talk about today, is the Army Research Lab awarding $25 million contract for the Internet of Battlefield Things. The Army Research Lab has awarded $25 million to a consortium of research teams, including the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, that heads the research team, and it also includes researchers from SRI International, Carnegie Mellon University, University of California, Berkeley, University of California, Los Angeles, University of Massachusetts, and the University of Southern California. The aim is to create the Internet Battlefield of Things, which would connect all devices used by the modern warfighter. Now, this is the Internet of Things is a buzzword that everybody kind of uses. It just means the connection of devices across all domains. So use it in your everyday life, the Internet of Things. My smart toaster connects to my smart fridge, connects to my cell phone.
Right.
Now,
it can order me groceries when I'm out.
Yeah, order
stuff
you
like
groceries, track me through the grocery store, stuff like that. Now, implementing this in the warfighting scenario makes sense with all the disparate devices that, say, the soldier on the ground uses in order to fight. But the reliability of this is a big topic. Seems like a preliminary effort to see what researchers can come up with for ideas. $25 million over 5 years isn't necessarily like we're going to make something. This is let's get the ideas out there.
There's definitely interesting things you could do, like limiting targets and stuff like that. Knowing, okay, this bomb won't go off because there's people in the area is one of the things that have been brought up already. Stuff like that, picking targets with the ammo, saying, oh, well, you can't fire because this is a civilian or something.
This is a civilian or there's civilians around or something like that. Having all these little pieces of technology talk to each other to help collectively make a decision that ultimately decides whether you shoot or don't shoot.
Yeah, providing the soldier with more information.
One thing I'm personally kind of interested to see is the Army is definitely not going to invest in battlefield capable devices without considering security.
Right.
Whereas the person who sold me my smart toaster, they're not their priority.
Especially when they're rushing to market.
Exactly.
The first one.
The competition, et cetera. So what I'm kind of interested to see is many times the military has developed a technology or developed a framework for a technology that then the commercial industry can benefit from. So I am curious if this will have other ramifications for the larger Internet of Things issues to say, look, here's how we can start moving forward in a secure fashion on the battlefields, manufacturers for commercial. Maybe now we could start developing a legal framework so then my toaster doesn't become part of a large-scale denial of service attack, for example. But it's pretty interesting to see where it'll go.
The security ramifications are huge when you're talking about so many pieces of information that need to be communicated between devices in order to make a decision. It's astronomical to think that the amount of data that one would need to make a decision like that, especially in an automated way, on saying
when you're not dealing with just making toast or something.
The gravity of the situation and the integrity that the technology has to have in order to help with that decision. Mind-boggling, honestly, and I wouldn't expect something to come out of this. This is obviously the preliminary research. I wouldn't expect something to come out of this for another 10 years, honestly. This being the idea gathering, and then whatever ideas that come out of that need to be chased to the ground. I think they said this is a 10-year effort. The first 5 years are funded with $25 million, and then I think whatever comes out of that, whatever good ideas are going to get more money, I don't know how much, for another 5 years of research and development to see if we can really make something out of that, including the frameworks. And this spans over a bunch of technology, including embedded systems for like small CPUs. I think they even mentioned like Iron Man in the article. So you have like all the systems of the Iron Man suit talking to each other, and all the embedded systems, as well as network communications for all these different pieces of technology that could exist in space, sky, land, or on base, that they all need to talk to each other. That's crazy. So
cool stuff.
So that's all we have for today. If you would like to subscribe to the CS Digest, please visit www.csiac.org/CS Digest. Again, you can get a curated list of the top cybersecurity articles delivered directly to your email inbox every 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. You.
We'll see you.
Did you know that CSIAC offers free monthly webinars featuring experts in the areas of cybersecurity, software engineering, modeling and simulation, and knowledge management? Come see leading industry professionals talk about industry practices and leading research. Make sure to visit www.csiac.org/webinars in order to subscribe to our mailing list and see when the next webinar series is available. There you can also watch previous webinar series to catch up. Visit www.csiac.org/webinars.